Let's talk about pay to play. Now, one of the most despicable and most hated practices that people hear about the Sunset Strip days. And, let me tell you, that kind of thing, even when I went to Nashville, it existed. And every now and then I'll hear people say, we had to pay to play this venue and stuff like that. Man, a lot of people might not understand exactly what that was like, but the Sunset Strip scene was absolutely its own thing. And I don't think a scene like that, full of original music, full of life and full of youth, and full of middle-aged guys, and filled with that many people, all with one goal, some to meet members of the band, others to want to get record deals and have their career become a star on MTV, on Headbangers Ball, any number of things to get on the charts. And, it obviously, you saw previous rock stars, whether it be Van Halen or Quiet Riot or Rat or Dokken, you saw these people kind of rise out of the Sunset Strip and become huge rock stars with the girlfriends, with the sports cars, the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, the Porsches, all of that, the big houses, the lifestyle. It looked like this was a ticket out of the mundane. And the predominant influence of MTV and seeing, in the Van Halen or David Lee Roth videos with all the girls, the California Girls video, and seeing this thing, you couldn't help but be a teenage boy and want to go do that. It was a very real thing. And I was one of those guys back in the day, and there's the band flyer, that was playing the Sunset Strip, that had stars in my eyes, that wanted to become a rock star, that wanted to do all those things that I saw on MTV. And the reality is, once you got out to LA, man, that was just the start. And even if you were one of the few that got a record deal, that was not guaranteed success, and it's not guaranteed that you're now sitting in a mansion with your Lamborghini and your trophy wife. It was a very tough road, and most of us did not make it. Now, one of the challenges of being out there and being in a Sunset Strip band was you had to be a salesman. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, first of all, my first job out there when I got out to Hollywood, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what to do, but I got into phone sales. I know a lot of rockers back in the day would work in these phone sales office, selling office supplies, selling tools. Now, my first job was selling office supplies in a building near the Hollywood Roosevelt. And then after that kind of ran its course, then I answered an ad for Tools Plus out in Chatsworth that were selling automotive parts to, different gas stations across America. And that was where I learned the pitch, having a pitch, being able to say something to inspire someone to say, yeah, I want that. Yeah. So being able to sell was very important to the Sunset Strip. Why? Because even if you weren't doing pay to play, and I'm going to get into the details of pay to play here soon, even if you weren't having to pay to play, you still had to convince people to come see you play. They're not going to just place the ad in the magazine, and yeah, there would be ads saying which band was playing. And maybe if you were lucky, maybe your picture would be in the ad. And, as good looking as you might be, that's not going to be enough to get people to come out. They're not going to just go, oh, wow, he's really good looking, and go to the gig. It helps. It certainly helps. But you had to get off your rear end, get your spandex covered butt on the street, and convince people to go to your show. And most notably, that would be girls. It wasn't guys that you were doing your pitch to. You were trying to get girls to the show. So, pay to play. These clubs started realizing that there were hundreds upon hundreds of kids coming to LA wanting to be rock stars. And they no longer had to pay. In the early 80s, Billy Dior from DeMalls was telling me that, his band was getting paid to play the Whisky. But by the time I got out there, and it was, about 88, 89, it was a pay-to-play scene, especially if you were a new band or, you had no experience and no following. Now, I was lucky that my first experience on the Sunset Strip was with a headlining act, playing the Roxy, playing on it was a Friday or a Saturday night, prime time, prime slot. I don't think we sold tickets, but we did do some gigs, and it may have been the Troubadour or it may have been Gazzarri's. I'm not sure which one, but we did do some pay-to-play gigs. Now, what that involved was, they would give you a stack of tickets. Now, let's say it was 100 tickets, and they would want you to hand over $800 before you hit the stage. So you've got 100 tickets, and you go, okay, we'll sell them at $8 a pop. That gives them the $800 that you need to get in the club and play your gig. But you start thinking, well, wow, if I could sell these for $16, then we've got $800 as a band to put into our rehearsal facility, to put into our beer fund or the after party. So bands would get creative. Okay, your ticket stub gets you into the after party. And so if you buy a ticket for $16, there's gonna be 3 kegs, and you're gonna be able to drink beer and and all this kind of stuff. So bands would get creative and do things like that. And of course, there was always some after party of some sort, whether it was at the Shock House or whatever band was playing. They all had after parties. Sometimes if it was Motley Crue's case, it would be back at their Hollywood apartment. Others, would have houses out in the valley like we did. Now, the thing about it, $16 now for a ticket to see a show. It sounds like, wow, that's cheap. But man, back then, you could go see Van Halen for $15. You could go see Rat for $15. You could go see Dokken for $15. So trying to get $16 for a ticket, man, that was not that easy. I mean, I think when I was working at the pawn shop and working 40 hours a week, I was making $10 an hour. So 40 hours times 10, it's $400, but after taxes, I'm making $350, $320, somewhere around there. If I took a little extra time off that week because I had a band rehearsal or whatever, I'd make less. So, that was good money. I was making good money working at the pawn shop. But man, a lot of people didn't have money. And, a lot of people in your band would not have sales skills. Now, some guys would have Rolodexes full of people, and they could call and say, how many I'm playing Friday. We're playing this big show. And how many tickets you want? How many tickets you want? And so they would work the phones and they would be able to sell. But let's say you go through a singer change like we did. And our original singer had a big following, but our new singer, he's got no following. So now all of a sudden you're the guitar player, the bass player, and let's say the drummer's a non-factor as far as selling tickets. Then you've got to sell twice as many as the other guys. And inevitably, one guy might lose the tickets. Another guy might not be able to sell his. Oh, I can't sell mine. Another guy might say, hey man, I need 10 more tickets. Give me 10 more, and take some of your tickets. But you would inevitably have friends that say, yeah, give me 3 tickets. And then they don't give you the money. And there they are at the show, and there they are at the after party. But the reality is it was not an easy thing to do to sell those tickets. Now, if you were an opening act and you were playing with a well-known local headliner like Shock or Tough or Jailhouse or Anna Black or one of those bands, and you were one of the opening acts, and they might say, okay, give us 500 before the show. Then you would have 100 tickets. You could sell them at $5 a pop, or maybe sell them at $10 a pop, and then have $500 for your band. But, that would be an easier sell if that was a band that the tickets were in demand and you're the opening act, and you might be pumped up that you can get to play in front of Tough's crowd or Anna Black's crowd or, any, Tricks or any number of those headliners on the Strip. But it was not an easy thing, because not everybody in your band is got sales skills. And, when you go up and hand out flyers, there were a lot of bands where I'd see them and they just, here you go, playing Friday the Troubadour, come see us. That was their pitch. It's not gonna get it, bro. Ain't happening, dude. The reality is, lots and lots of flyers ended up in the ground, on the sidewalk. And eventually, the city shut that down. They got tired of having to hire a cleanup crew and sweep up all the flyers, after a weekend of debauchery on the Sunset Strip. And so, you had to be a lot slicker than just handing out flyers. One, putting flyers on cars, that's sort of indirect marketing. It's they might give a look at it and go, oh, this is cool, or they might once again throw it in the parking lot. And we would oftentimes, I remember one time we went to the Grammys. We heard the Grammys was I think it was near USC. And so we went, flyered all the cars at USC, and it's the Grammys, man. Let's go for a different crowd. Let's not try to just get the same old headbanging, people to our gigs. Let's go hit the Grammys. Maybe we try a different crowd, and but those kind of things, man, that rarely got people to go to shows. Just putting flyers on the crowds, on the cars. That was a nuisance to most people. So the best way to market your band was actually talking and going and having a conversation and seeing. And look, you would know instantly when you go up to a group of girls, and some of them would just not even give you the time of day. Some of those girls were really looking for the totally glammed up, tons of makeup, teased out hair, looking more made up than they were. And, we were not that. We were a lot more organic than that. Yeah, we had long hair, and yeah, we played loud guitars, but we were not the ultra kind of glam type band. So, every now and then you'd go up to girls and you just knew the minute they're just looking at you like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay. You learn early on that you're not going to really change a girl's opinion, if they're just not that into you from the get-go. So, you best go, okay, thanks, you guys, and not get upset about it, not take it personally, and just move on to the next group of girls. And I guarantee you keep going, and pretty soon you're going to meet a girl and she's like, hey, you're really cute, and and you start talking to them and say, hey, we're playing in a band. Oh, well, what's the name of your band? Well, here's my flyer. And check it out. We're playing flyer. We're playing at the Troubadour, and we're headlining. Oh, you're headlining? You guys must be good. Yeah, we are good. You should really come out to this gig. Well, I might be able to make it, but my friend's band's playing that night. I said, well, I get it that your friend's band is playing that night, but you know what? And you've seen him play before. But you haven't seen us play before. And if you come out and see us, you're going to really, really love it. And you know what? I'd like to hang out with you sometime. Maybe me and you can go. And, we would do stuff like, Greg, our bass player, would go up and go, oh, it's my future ex-wife. And he'd go up and just immediately be hugging a girl and, oh, you smell so good. And, and just try to make a personal connection. And it was hardcore street marketing. There's no other way to describe it. It was just sink or swim, and so the guys that were good at it in your band, and I was one of those guys that was good at it and I liked doing it, but man, it took a lot of nerve to go out there and, go up to every girl you see and deal with the rejection, and then, keep a positive attitude. You could have some girl that just totally was just rude and mean and shoot you down, and you've got to ignore it and go right to the next group of girls and have a positive, hey, just like any other salesman, you don't let the no's get you down. You move on to the next one. We would just go up to every group of girls we saw and just start sink or swim, right? We would just start and try to engage them and try to start a conversation. And when you have a group of guys and you travel in a group, and the girls usually travel in groups too. So two or three of us would go up to the girls, and you'd start to notice, oh, well, this one's kind of giving me the eye, but this one's being, this one's kind of, cock blocking, but, I need to focus on her. So, hey, I know your friend doesn't really dig us, but hey, how about give me your phone number and I'll call you, and you need to come see us play. You really need to come see us play. Not everybody in your band would be good at it, and that's what would make it really tough, because you inevitably have to pick up the slack for the guy that's got a girlfriend and she doesn't like it when I go talk to other girls and, all that. And you really, we all had girlfriends to some degree. I mean, they might not have been steady girlfriends, but we all generally had girlfriends, and we just had to tell them, look, I'm trying to make it here. I'm trying to get somewhere. I'm trying to do something with my life. And I have got to get people out to the show. So we're going out promoting. And that's just the way it was, man. We would go out every weekend, and we would start off, because it was hard. It was hard dealing with rejection. It was hard. Sometimes you might be fighting with your bandmates. You're living with them. In my case, I'm living at the Shock House, and we would have squabbles, and we'd be ticked off at each other, and we'd be sick of each other's But the reality is once we got out there, we would, all bets were off. We go, dude, we're the greatest friends in the world. And all of a sudden we're the three musketeers. As soon as we hit that strip, we might have been arguing over money. You owe me $20 for waffles last week, or, your rent's short this week, We might have been arguing over rent money. We might have been ticked off at, something you yelled at me at the last gig, or, whatever else was going on, and you'd be ticked off with each other. And as soon as you got out there, we would just, put our arms around each other and just act like we were just like so happy to be in this band. And so we might be, ticked off at each other and arguing over rent money, and ticked off that we don't have anything to eat and we've got no money and this and that. But once we hit that strip, we pretended like we loved each other and we were the greatest friends on earth. And hey, isn't this just wonderful? And you might, when you're in sales, you cannot project your true feelings. You have to project positive energy. And so, it took a lot of nerve to go out there and do this kind of street marketing. And man, it always started out with going to 7-Eleven and getting a 12-pack. And at that time, I think it was under $5 for a 12-pack of Coors beer. I think we would get either Coors Light or Coors, but it was always whatever was on sale. And we would inevitably drink 2 or 3 of those beers before we got down to the strip. So when we got out on the strip, we were in party mode. And then you'd usually stash a beer in the pocket of your jacket or in both pockets. So once you were out there, now it was illegal to drink in public, and there would be cops walking down the strip. So you had to be super stealth about it. You had to be slick. At one point they banned, handing out flyers. So we had to hide the flyers. You had to hide the beer. If there was any kind of this left-handed cigarette stuff going on, you had to be really careful about that, because you could end up in the pokey after a night on the Sunset Strip. But it was, as long as you stayed between the lines, as long as you were, cool to the club owners and, behaved yourself down there, you could get away with a lot. And I saw a lot of crazy stuff happening in all my time. But man, the pay-to-play thing was just a terrible thing that we all kind of had to deal with, especially in the late 80s. And I didn't have to do it a lot, but I did have to do it, and I did experience it. And I know how hard it was. But, I look at my Social Security statement now, and I look at that period of time where I was out in LA, and I think, man, my misspent youth. I didn't get paid for all that effort and all that work that I did down on the Sunset Strip. Now, flash forward. I moved to Nashville. You go from being a hero back to being a zero, because I come to Nashville, and even though I'm the same guy, I'm the same guitar player, I still got my long hair, but all of a sudden I'm nobody. And nobody knows who I am. And, I'm lucky that I had friends that brought me in and got me some gigs. But they were not the kind of gigs where, playing club gigs in Nashville is not going to make you a hero like it would in LA. One gig at the Roxy and boom, you're a rock star, and every girl's hanging on you, and you've got many opportunities, if you know what I mean. But Nashville was not the same, man. You play these gigs and you play your butt off, and you're just another musician in this town. And frankly, the local girls, at that time, the thing was, California, LA had so many beautiful women, and nothing against the South or anything, but at that point in time in Tennessee, fashion-wise, it was way behind. It didn't, have the rock scene that LA had. And so, man, as far as what was available to you, as far as female company, it did not compare at all to what was available in California. And so you go from, hero back to zero. And that's a tough thing to do. But what was even more alarming, so I had joined a country band at one point that was shopping, trying to get a record deal. And if that had taken off, man, that could have really been a cool thing, but it didn't. It fell apart, management, issues and all kinds of things going on. And that didn't work out. But me and the guitar player kind of hit it off. It was my buddy Pete Locke. And I know Pete watches this channel. I want to send a salute and a shout to Pete. He's a great guitar player. And we thought, man, we've been writing some songs. Why don't we put together a rock band and go play in the local rock scene? And we had gone to the Cannery. The Cannery was a club, and I, unbeknownst to me, we go there, and all of a sudden, it's like a 5 years too late, LA scene still happening at the Cannery. And we're seeing these rocker chicks and we're seeing rocker dudes and we're nobodies now. So, nobody's looking at us, but like, man, we've already done this. We've already, because Pete played in LA too. And so, well, dude, let's put together a band, man. Maybe we need to be playing rock again, and so, they had a meeting for the Cannery for all acts, wanting to play the Cannery, come to this meeting. And it was either an ad in the paper or a flyer or something that we saw. And I said, Pete, let's go down to this and let's bring our demo tape. And maybe we could start playing the rock clubs again. And we go down there and it's a room full of local rock musicians. I mean, there had to have been at least 100 people in there. It was like a wedding ceremony. A whole row of people on this side, a whole row of people on this side, all in folding chairs, and we're sitting there, and there's a pathway through the middle. Me and Pete are sitting on the end of an aisle, near the center aisle. And this guy gets up there and he goes, okay, well, this is, want to welcome everybody for coming out, for prospective bands to play the Cannery. And, we've got to have some great shows this year and all this kind of stuff. He says, so what we're going to do this year is everybody's going to get tickets. And what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to sell these tickets. And I just looked at Pete and I said, and we literally got up and walked out right in the middle of this guy's spiel. Man, I was not going to pay to play in Nashville. I barely had to do it in LA, but I did it begrudgingly, not knowing any better. But to come to Nashville and find that local rock bands were having to do this was absolutely disgusting, and I wanted absolutely no part of it.